In this video, you'll be taught how to install your Nano ring hair extensions. So the very first thing you want to do is create that sectioning. So you're going to start on the top and work your way all the way down, and you're going to create that straight line straight down the back. Always remembering that it is a lot more difficult on a mannequin than it is on a human head, so don't be alarmed if you're finding it a little difficult. So you're going to create that back section, making it as straight and neat as possible. Like so. You're going to grab an alligator clip and then just clip that off to the side. And working on this side, you're going to create your first row, and you're going to start about an inch above the bottom hairline. So you're going to create your first row an inch above that bottom hairline, and you're going to bring that down and just make sure again that it's as straight and as possible. And you're going to grab another alligator clip and clip that off. And you're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. And then this will connect your two lines, and it'll create one row. So typically I like to start on the middle here where this one was ended, and just create your next one over here. Bring that down, making sure they're equivalent and parallel to each other. Clip that upwards and clip off. And now you have your first row. Grabbing your alligator clips, you're going to just want to clip any hair that's falling below or interfering with your row up. And this just will make it a lot more easier for you. So now that you have your first nape row created, you're going to start your installation. Again, remembering that you start from the bottom, working your way upwards. With Nano rings, you don't really have a guide. It's just row by row by row by row until you've filled up the entire head. So the first thing you grab is your loop thread, and you just load up the thread with the Nano beads. I usually get silicone lined rings, and this will just protect the hair a lot better than if they were non-silicone lined rings. So I get it in a size 3 millimeters, and you typically want the bead itself to match the client's root color. If they're doing an ombre and their root is brown and the hair is blonde, you still want it to be brown because you want the bead to disguise with their natural hair color, which would be the root color. So always making sure that the bead matches the client's root color. So you're gonna load up the bead using your rings, and you're just gonna grab them. They're very, very small. And you're just going to put them right through the needle. And typically I like to load it up at least about halfway, so it just makes my process a lot faster. Loop that through. And once you've loaded it up, you're going to start on either your left side or your right side. Again, alternating in each row, you're going to alternate your side. So starting on this row, I'm going to start on the right side, working my way to the left side. In my next row, I'm going to start on the left side, working my way to the right side. And this will create that brick layer effect rather than having your rows directly on top of each other. The brick layer allows for the extension to get and fill those gaps in between. So starting on my right side, you're going to want to leave a finger space away from the perimeter of the client's face to where you start and put your first extension. And typically what I like to do is, grabbing the tail comb, I will create a triangular effect. So dragging, leaving the tip of the tail comb, gliding on the client's scalp, you're going to create a triangular effect, just like that. And you're going to grab what's equivalent of the client's natural hair to one extension. So once you've grabbed your client's natural hair, you're going to grab your loop thread. You're going to put your fingers through it. So you're going to open up the loop like so. And you're going to grab the hair, making sure that there's no crosshairs, there's nothing interfering with this section that you've sectioned off. And you're going to pull the hair through the loop. So now it looks like this. And you're going to hold them both in one hand using your right hand or left hand, whichever side is your dominant. You're going to push the bead upwards and you're going to pull that bead onto the client's hair. You don't want to hold on the client's natural hair too strong or else the bead is not going to go through. So maybe letting go and then pushing that bead through, pulling your loop out of the way. So then you're going to push that bead upwards and bring it closer to the root. I like to say I like to keep about a pinky space of where the client's scalp is to where the bead will sit. So you don't want to bring it too high up. If you're bringing it too high up, it's going to be too tight and cause too much tension at the scalp. So you could see here, this is too much tension if you're bringing it too high, and this could cause damage, breakage, and slippage. So you want to lower that a tiny bit. And as you can see, it's created a triangular, like an upside down triangle. You're then going to grab your nano ring. And as you can see, there's a little metal piece at the top there. You're going to put that behind and underneath the bead and push that metal piece upwards. Holding that in place, you're going to use your pliers, and as you can see, it did go up a little tighter to the root, but I'm going to fix that with the pliers. So grabbing your pliers, you're going to put that directly on the bead, drag it down a little bit so it's not so close to the root, and then press and firmly tighten that. And now you have your nano ring extension installed. So we're going to do that and keep going to fill up the entire row. Again, same thing, you're going to create that triangular, and you do want it to be like directly beside each other. So you're going to create that triangular, almost like a U shape will create that triangular look. And then it kind of typically looks like that. You're going to grab your loop, putting your fingers through to open it. You're going to loop the hair through your thread, pulling it out of the way, then pushing your one bead up. And I would suggest don't bring the loop all the way up here, kind of bring it halfway down the shaft so it's easier. And you're going to push that bead through the hair. And now that you've got it onto the hair, you're going to pull your thread, holding the bead, pulling your thread to get that hair out of the loop. So now that you have that, you're going to bring that upwards. Again, making sure you have a pinky space from the scalp to where the bead is going to be sitting, so we can bring that a little lower. Using your finger and keeping it here to hold it in place, you're going to grab your nano extension. I typically like to put it behind, not in front, so I'll put the metal piece just behind there. So the hair is covering the extension. The client's natural hair is covering the extension. Then grabbing your pliers, you're going to adjust and then tightly press that together. And then you're going to continue. So again, creating that U shape. So you're going to start at the top and you're going to drag your tail comb to kind of like pick up the hairs that are underneath. So start at the top, drag, pick up the hair underneath, and now that you have your hair, you're gonna grab your needle, loop the hair through the needle, bringing the bead upwards, pushing that onto the hair, holding the bead and pulling the loop out and pulling the hair out. Now that you have your bead on the hair, grabbing your nano extension, We're going to place that behind and through the bead that is through the natural hair. Using your pliers, we're just going to tightly press that. And you're gonna keep going. Now, if you find that you're struggling to pull the bead through the loop, it just could mean that you added too much of the client's natural hair. So if that's the case, you do want to remove that thread and then just trim off some of the client's natural hair and try again. And then it should be able to go through. So as you guys can see, I must have added too much hair because my bead is not going up. I've even brought it pretty low, but it still won't go up. So I'm going to push the bead back through, remove some of the natural hair, and try again. And now it's gone through. And now we've created our first row of the Nano installation. And if you'd like, you can also straighten out your rows just to make it easier for the final product at the end. But typically you will then go again and work row by row. You're gonna do the same thing. You're going to create your next section and your next row, dropping these two down. So we're going to work on this quadrant first. Your next row will be again about 1/2 inch above your previous row. And you're going to drop that hair down. Clip that off. Do the same thing on this side, making sure that it connects to this one. So again, sectioning about 1/2 inch above your previous row. And just making sure that it connects to create one big row. Again, using your alligator clips, you're going to lift up those crosshairs and those hairs that are falling over top your row. And as you can see in our previous row, I started on the right side. So in this row now, we're going to start on the left side, and this will allow to be automatically brick layered. So you won't even have to really keep your eye on it, because now that your next row is going to basically start off and it's going to be filling in these gaps underneath here. So again, leaving your finger space, our first section will be created right here. And as you can see, this extension will be placed right in between. I'll zoom you guys in. It'll be placed right in between these two, and it's gonna fill in that gap. So that's how you create your brick layer, by alternating which sides you start on in each row. So now that you put your extension here, you're going to have all your gaps filled in, so your extensions at the end don't look stringy and they look full. And then you'll just fill up that entire row, and you'll be doing the same thing moving forward. You're going to section off a new row, and it's going to be 1/2 inch above your previous row. You're going to work your way upwards. Your last section or your last row, especially on the back area, would typically end where the calic and the crown is. This is because if you go too high up or too close to this area, the extension will be visible. So the calic and the crown area is typically around the center top back of the client's scalp. On some clients you can actually see it and it looks like a little bald circle, and on other clients it's a little harder to detect. So if you do notice it, please do not pass it to make it a little easier. The last section on the client's back would be where the brow bone is aligned. So the top of the brow bone, or the brow arch, sorry, this would typically be your last row. So as you guys can see here, her brow will meet up with where her crown or her calic is. That will be your last row in the back. If the client's hair is specifically thick and you do need to go higher, you can do so on the sides. Just ensure that you're flipping the hair over top of the extension and making sure that it is not visible. When it comes to removing and reinstalling nano ring hair extensions, it is the same procedure as installing when it comes to working from the bottom and going upwards. You're always going to start on the bottom. You're always going to work row by row, piece by piece. You're going to remove and put it back in the same spot. So obviously I'm starting at the bottom here, which is my very first row. I'm going to grab my pliers. We're going to start with this extension. Grabbing your pliers, you're going to use your pliers and pinch the sides. So you're not going to pinch like this where we originally pinched to secure it. You're now going to open the beads, so pinching the sides opens up the beads. Sometimes you gotta do it again to loosen it up more, and then your extension will come out. You're then going to remove the bead, and now this goes in the garbage. You cannot reuse nano rings, and then this can be placed aside to be put back in shortly. And then you're going to do that for the rest of the row. You're going to pinch the side of the beads, remove the extension, remove the bead, And another suggestion or something you'll have to do is you're going to have to brush out those sections, of course, because they will get tangled. There will be a little bit of matting, which is very normal. So just ensure that you do brush those out. And then continuing that for the rest of the entire row. Now that you've removed your entire row of the nano rings, you're just gonna wanna make sure everything is brushed through. There are no tangles and no matting, and everything, all the shedded hair is all brushed out. You're just gonna then clean up that row and prepare it to be installed for the extensions. So starting on whichever side you decide, I'm gonna start on my right side, you're now going to install the extension back in the same place. So 1 finger space away from the perimeter of the face, you're going to start reinstalling your nano beads. And this is pretty much just the installation process all over again. So grabbing your loop, looping the client's natural hair through, bringing that bead up through the loop and onto their hair, bringing that a little closer to the scalp, making sure you leave that pinky space from the scalp to where the bead will be secured. Grabbing your nano extension, reusing the exact same one, putting that through your bead, securing and clamping with your pliers, and now you've reinstalled your extension, and you're going to do the same thing in the entire row. Once you've completed your row, you're going to move on to your next row. You're going to bring down that row, remove all of the extensions, brush through them, and then put them back in the exact same spot. And you're going to do this for the entire head. And that's how you remove and reinstall your nano ring hair extensions.